Hi everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to work Lori's Twisty bind off in the round. So this bind off is a wonderful companion for the twisted loop cast on. They look very similar and they share several qualities. So it's stretchy. It doesn't flare out like many bind offs tend to do. It doesn't flare out at the edge where it gets larger. It is worked in pattern, and it doesn't have that chain on the top. It's much more of a zigzag pattern, which works perfectly. You can work this with any type of ribbing. Knit 1 purl 1, which is what I've done, but you can also work it with knit 2 purl 2 or knit 3 purl 1. So today I'm showing you how to do this with a double pointed needle. It's quite difficult to work on short circular needles. I use a 16-inch circular and I figured it didn't really work for me. It can be used with magic loop though. It can be worked with a double pointed needle, which is my favorite, and it can also be worked with a straight needle. But like I said, double pointed needle is my favorite. So basically what you're going to be doing is knitting the knit stitches and purling the purl stitches like usual, but there's a twist to each stitch, which is how it is more of a zigzag pattern, and that's what gives it the extra stretch. I'm using size 5s, which is what I use for my ribbing, but you can size up a size or two, which will make it a bit looser, a bit stretchier. And you can also add an extra twist while you're working. So basically, every time you're about to knit a stitch, you are going to rotate your needle clockwise. Okay? So then you are going to knit your stitch and pass the previous stitch over. Okay? You don't want your stitches to be super tight, but you also don't want them to be really loose. Okay, so snug is just fine. So then, to purl the next stitch, you are going to twist counterclockwise. Okay? So then you just purl the purl as usual and pass the previous stitch over. Again, to knit, you're going to twist clockwise, knit the stitch, pass the stitch over. And you can knit several stitches in a row, you just do it the exact same way. Same for purls, you purl multiple in a row, you can do it the same way as you normally do one purl. Okay? So to purl, you twist it counterclockwise, and then purl the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To knit, twist it clockwise, and this is where if you want to make it extra stretchy, you can twist it twice in the same direction. Okay? I'm going to undo the second twist because I am only doing it twisted once, but that is totally fine. Okay? So then you knit the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To purl, you go counterclockwise, purl the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To knit, rotate clockwise, knit the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To purl, rotate counterclockwise, purl the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To knit, clockwise, knit the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To purl, you rotate counterclockwise, purl the next stitch, pass the previous stitch over. Hoping this is working out for you. I'll just go right till my end. Feel free to watch this video as many times as you need until you get it. Okay, so to knit, you rotate clockwise, knit the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. To purl, you will rotate counterclockwise, purl the stitch, pass the previous stitch over. Okay? Now I'm going to go without narrating it, and you can just watch if you need to, okay? Okay, and that's it. So then what you would do is, I'm gonna cut the yarn. I like to leave a pretty long tail. And then I usually thread the yarn through and pull tight. So then if you notice it gives you a bit of a gap, what I typically do is I start by weaving it in right here, and then you can't even really see it. So there you go, there it is. There's the Lori's Twisty bind off, and there it is. And that matches perfectly with the twisted loop cast on. Pretty nice, huh? Good luck and happy knitting!